This is not a true story.
In space, there's crime, bad guys need to be taken out, and there has to be a hero to answer the call, or in this case, a bounty hunter. Working for what is essentially the space police force, Maris The Chojo, or Maris the Supergirl, is on the case. Not only does she have gorgeous looks, she's the strongest person in the room. So strong, in fact, she has to wear restraints to hold back her strength to essentially not, My friend Mark deals with the same thing. What 17 more years? One day, Maris gets a bounty, save the son of a billionaire and have the biggest payday of her life, and even the possibility of marriage to said billionaire's son. With racking debt on her shoulders and parents who are constantly squeezing her out of every little penny that she possibly has, we can only hope and pray that Maris not only survives, but gets out of the rut she's in. Wow, the only way Maris could actually get out of a situation like this is if she's...
Wouldn't even keep you as a puppy girl in my polycule. My drill is the drill that creates the heaven. Done it.
Shake, shake.
Whenever I'm doing my research, there's always one person I come across. One person when it comes down to discussing retro anime that you cannot deny their influence. She's completely changed the industry of anime. The legacy of Rumiko Takahashi cannot be understated. It's as if she is a trendsetter that trends still hold up perfectly today, about 40 years later, and that's for better or for worse. She popularized the I like you, but I hate you trope with Inuyasha, known for her large expressions, borderline perfect comedic timing, and writing as shown in the gender-bending comedy of Ranma 1/2. Also, please, if you haven't watched the Ranma newest remake, it's actually pretty good. It's on Netflix, check it out. Oh, yeah, and how could I have forgotten she introduced the world to Moe and gave us the very first waifu. Yes, Rumiko Takahashi, through a crazy butterfly effect, is the reason why we have body pillows. My first exposure to her work was when I had to be like 3, 4, or 5 years old and I caught Inuyasha on Toonami like it was reruns of George Lopez on Nick at Night. My mom would watch the show and I would watch it with her, not knowing a single thing that was happening, and boom, that kind of explains how I feel about Inuyasha today. But we're not getting into all that today. Today, we're going to be looking into something that technically predates Urusei, something that was one of Rumiko's many steps to becoming the legend she is today, but it get its anime adaptation years after its manga release, while she was riding high off the success of Urusei and digging her teeth into other projects like Fire Tripper. Maris The Chojo's manga was released in 1980 as a one-shot manga that ran as a special edition of Shonen Sunday. It get its anime adaptation worked on by Studio Period, the same studio that worked on Cosmo Police Justy in 1986. It is pronounced Studio Perot. God! Speaking of Cosmo Police Justy, it was directed by the same person who directed Maris The Chojo, a frequent collaborator that also did storyboards and some animation directing on Urusei, Marusuke Takahashi, a man who has had his hand in so many pies in the retro anime lineup that, trust, he will be mentioned more on this channel. But Maris The Chojo was another job for him and another paycheck for Rumiko, and it seems that they had a talented team of young animators, many of which would end up having a long career in the animation industry. One notable mention is Toshihiro Kawamoto. Known as an animation director for nearly every anime ever, it seems like he is notable for being an animation director and a character designer for the 1998 Sunrise classic anime that would go on to change society as we know anime. And with music composed by God You Look So Cool Ichiro Nida, a man who had a hand in composing and bringing to life one of the greatest city pop albums ever. It was released as a collection of Rumiko Takahashi's one-shot stories and other projects that she worked on that ended up getting animated. The collection was dubbed It was originally under the name Maris the Supergirl when it was dubbed over here by Central Park Media back in the early 90s, but it was changed to Maris the Wonder Girl and then changed back to the original Japanese title of Maris The Chojo. I'm guessing this was done to be able to avoid, rights issues with DC properties. So, okay, we have a solid cast of people behind Maris The Chojo, but it begs the question, did the team bring their A game to Maris The Chojo? And the answer is a resounding. The animation is pretty tight. It's not gorgeously animated to the point that my mind was blown, but the animation is strong, especially in the opening sequence where Maris is taking down the bad guys. I will say, if you do decide to watch the English dub for whatever reason, be prepared to have the most mixed review. I think that Maris is a pretty decent voice, but I think everyone else does a pretty rough job.
Well, Maris, I'm humiliated as well, having to walk around wearing this sign. Somebody's gotta pay for the damage or I'm gonna bring in the police.
Don't you owe me a bit of gratitude for taking you from the hard, cruel world of the female wrestler?
I think the worst case scenario has to be Sue.
They seem to have ignored my advice. That's a space patrol ship there. I even wore these ridiculous restraints so that I wouldn't smash up my lovely fortress by mistake.
An ongoing theme of this anime is finances.
I'm bad-tempered because I'm broke. I never quite got to make the big time, but now they're rich. And what that means is I'll finally be able to lose these restraints.
So will you marry me?
Oh, yes.
And then you'll be rich.
Oh, boy.
I'm not going to get too political right now, but the way things are looking, maybe this anime hits a bit different for me than it normally would have when we're talking about our main character being under the financial burdens that are completely out of her control.
All right, Mom. I'll get an advance on my advance and send it to you.
Oh, thank you, Maris.
Before I send it off, you've got to promise you won't simply waste it on a cheap model, which will just break down.
That adds on to this layer of relatability that I'm going to be honest that I truly appreciated when watching this anime. Humanizing this thing that's not even human, Maris is one of the best parts of the entire anime. Not only does her design look retro sci-fi as f, but also keeping in theming of the anime, her hairpin is literally yen. Maris' backstory is what makes her so sympathetic. She's an alien refugee after her planet blew up, and she's blessed with this enormous strength. She has to streamline herself by wearing restraints not to hurt or endanger anyone. She's used to being a wrestler, which is something that she enjoyed, but there's no money in doing what you love. Trust me, I know. After getting picked up and hired by the space cops and given a rinky-dinky spaceship that breaks every 5 seconds, and her family squeezing every penny from her, her mother's shopping addiction, and her father's basically a trunk, Maris is truly in a shitty position. She even has to spend her vacation working to pay off her debts, and that's not even the tip of the stuff that homegirl has to deal with. From all my complaints that I'll get into in a second, she's entertaining as hell. Maris is far from any of the complaints that I have. She's our tenacious, money-hungry muscle girl, and what's not to love about that? Even her one-sided romance with the billionaire's son kind of makes sense and even adds on to her level of sympathy. This is her big break. I really hope that she's able to date this guy by the end of the anime, and oh shucks, we'll get into that in a second. No anime is free from flaws. The rest of the characters don't have much depth, and the very little that they do have isn't impressive enough. Made worse that minus one character, the rest of the cast is pretty unlikable and, may I be honest, downright cruel. You can guess Maris' overbearing boss, who's keeping her in debt on a metaphorical leash, and her parents who use her up for her money suck.
So sorry to bother you, Maris. I wanted to ask if you'd do us a little favor. We came shopping to replace your father's restraint, as you see. Well, he stopped for a little refreshment, and some nasty mutants in the cafe, took advantage.
I'm going to you.
But then there's the worst character in the whole anime. Her sidekick, Nine-Tailed Fox Murphy. Not only does he torture her emotionally and mentally by cloning himself into the man she likes and talking down to her, but he's constantly just being a to her.
Hope you appreciate my little joke, Maris.
So today I'm going to do a little demonstration on how to skin a red fox.
Dude, I don't think I need to drag this point on, but minus one moment in the anime, Murphy is basically useless. Made worse is the fact that he's not even funny. He exists for Maris to suffer, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not funny. Trust me, I know comedy and misery go hand in hand. That's why Tom and Jerry is hilarious 80 years later, but Murphy definitely is no Tom, and Murphy definitely is no Jerry. Then there's the billionaire's son who's been kidnapped, who, spoiler alert, the billionaire's son kidnapped himself because he got bored of being a billionaire. Yeah, I don't like this character, and especially after he kisses Maris for saving him and he leaves her for the person who originally kidnapped him. This is Stockholm Syndrome advanced. I'm surprised Maris didn't take her restraints off and then just... So time to talk about the character that's not Maris that I actually liked. Sue gets very little screen time in the anime, but she's one of my favorite characters, second to Maris. Sue lives in her own rinky-dink spaceship just like Maris. She's the same kind of alien as Maris. She falls into that category that I'm gonna just call, I know she's a bad guy because she looks like the main protagonist but with different colored hair. Sue gets a happy ending at Maris's expense, and you know what? In this miserable as anime, that's like honestly at most a 7 out of 10. I'm just happy to say that someone got a happy ending and made me not hate them at the end of it all. Is Maris the Supergirl, or Maris the Wonder Girl, or Maris the Chojo a bad anime? No, but it's nowhere as interesting as Takahashi's other works. It has good music and good animation, but when it comes down to characterization and everything else, it's sort of lacking in comparison to a work like Urusei, which characters are just so entertaining and bubbly. Thankfully, Maris The Chojo is 45 minutes, so you're not really missing out on much if you do decide to watch it. It's very short and very self-contained, focused on trying its best to make you laugh than actually making you laugh. If you're a fan of Rumiko Takahashi or muscle alien girls fighting, then most definitely you're going to find something that you're going to like here, but if you're not, then you're better off literally watching anything else. And hey, don't forget,
All cops are fascists.
3, 2, 1.